So we have a few presentations left. I have Blake's, Sean's, Haley's, and Isabella's. Who wants to go first? So I will share the screen and let me see who's, oh wait, this presentation I have. One sec. I think, Isabella, you want to start with yours?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay, so here is Isabella's.
So, these pictures I found off the internet, if you guys want to know where they're from. Right, so I was supposed to read this.
Okay.
There's a lot happening here. So, my main question I kind of addressed in this project was, what were like the techniques used in ancient architecture of the city that lets all the aspects of like the city be so historical and so important? So personally what I found was interesting because it showed a whole new light to the city I've never seen before, and architecture and history is all around us and we never get to take it in and have the time to enjoy it. So for my first fact, Jerusalem has been governed both as a town but as a national capital by a series of states and dynasties over a large amount of time periods, and through like the centuries they've been governed by a whole bunch of not blanking a whole slew of what's the word, I'm blanking on the word, but I'll come up with it eventually. And then my second fact, Jewish people throughout the world find it like as a place to go and like a place to go and a place to return to, and that connects them, as well as for Christians it connects them to Jesus and where he was crucified, as well as Muslims where Muhammad spoke to God. And then for my third fact, synagogues, churches, and mosques, and all these different buildings throughout the city carry along very similar architecture. And personally, I like the fact that majority of them have like this light pink look to them. I just thought it was a fun fact. So.
Right, and there's actually it's called the Jerusalem stone, right? That a lot of buildings are built from the Jerusalem stone. That's like a whitish sort of, right? Isabel.
Yeah, I said yeah, but my mic was off.
Oh, okay. So, and by the way, do you know, guys, that it is traditional when someone goes to Israel and Jerusalem to pick up stones so that you can bring it back and put it on loved ones if you have someone that you visit the cemetery, and to put the stone, because it's tradition to put, instead of flowers, actually Jews put the pebbles or stones on the grave. And so some people, when they go to Israel and Jerusalem, visit Jerusalem, they would bring some stones with them to put on their loved one's grave. So like to connect in a way to the Holy Land, right? So Isabel, you have more, or are you done?
I can explain the pictures, I guess.
Yeah, can
so the picture with like the yellow top to it, I don't know how to describe them.
The dome. It's
dome.
That's like this structure of the roof is called dome, right?
Yes. So a good portion of these are kind of like the same thing. So I have a little map just depicting like where it is and like why it's placed there. Not like
Right,
placed there,
right
but like
here.
the way that the countries surround it. So each of the countries surround it in a specific way where each person can come, and it's not it is technically a capital, but it's not necessarily the main focal point of like the entire country. Everybody can come. It's not just dedicated to the country, which I found was interesting. I have a picture of the temple, the desecrated temple and the Western Wall in the corner and like different aspects of that. And then
Mhm.
I have like where the church and the mosque is also there. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That is so interesting. Speaking of the architectural style, there's a real mixture of, you know, the ancient style that at the time when the temple was the first temple was built. Then when Romans were in power, right? Remember, it's the turn of the between the end of the before Common Era and the Common Era. So they influenced a lot of structure in not only in Israel but in Jerusalem as well. So some of the structures remind us of like Rome period structures and buildings. Some of it were influenced by Russian Orthodox, for example, this church. Not only Russian Orthodox, it's also the Armenian Orthodox and Greek Orthodox. So that kind of style. There's a little bit of a um, uh, like a Gothic style as well. So there's really a mixture of style, but the common thing again in Jerusalem is the famous Jerusalem stone that you can see on this picture that the wall has built or here, right? So you see the color of that stone, and that is really dominant in Jerusalem. Okay, great, awesome presentation, Isabella. Thank you. So I'm gonna go now to Sean. And thank you, Sean, for sending a separate picture. So if you can unmute yourself and explain us your presentation, which is beautiful also.
Okay, my point of discussion is how can multiple religions coexist peacefully in the same like city?
Mhm.
And my first fact is that the city of Jerusalem has been conquered more than 40 times. And I think it's interesting because how can a city that had so much turmoil in its past like ever have peace? And my second fact is each year thousands of people visit the Western or Wailing Wall to place their prayers on paper in the cracks of the wall. And I find this interesting that twice a year the team collects the hundreds of thousands of notes from the Western Wall and buries them on Jerusalem's Mount of Olives. And my third fact is Jerusalem is a holy city for three different faiths: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This is interesting that the same city is important to very different religions.
Right.
And the pictures on the bottom of the one on the left is the Wailing Wall, and then the one on the right is the Mount of Olives.
Very good. Thank you, Sean, so much. And by the way, a part of Mount Olive is like the largest Jewish cemetery. And they say that, you know, the observant Jews say that when Messiah would come, then the souls, the Jews all over the world who are dead will be resurrected and the righteous will return to Jerusalem. Again, this is not the belief of Reformed Jews, but, you know, there is a belief among the observant Jews that it may happen. Let me see, I had presentation from, from Blake. All right, so here we go. Okay, Blake. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Jerusalem is home to three major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Right. Okay.
This is interesting to me because of how welcoming the city is to all faiths.
Nice.
Neil Armstrong said when he visited Jerusalem, "I am more excited stepping on these stones than I was stepping on the moon."
Oh my goodness, that is really an interesting fact that I didn't even know. How did you find that? That is really, really awesome.
I guess we found it on the internet.
These are the right. I mean, where do we find everything else? But that is really interesting fact. I've never heard of that. I'm more excited stepping on the stones than I was stepping on the moon. Wow, that is really something. Okay.
This is interesting to me because it shows how magical Jerusalem is for the first person to walk on the moon to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yerushalayim,
Yep.
Hebrew for Jerusalem, contains the word shalom, which means peace.
Excellent.
This is interesting to me because despite all the conflict, there is still hope for peace. Oh, and then it was said, I would like to discuss how to make Jerusalem more peaceful. And then there's a,
The link.
yeah, I think so.
Nice. And hopefully we'll get to that later in our slideshow. Is Haley on the call? I'm not sure if I see her. Let's see. All right, so maybe she can still do a brief one next time if she joins. But that is really, really great. All of your presentations, really wonderful. And those of you who went in the previous 2 times, a terrific job, everybody. Thank you so much. Wait, Emma, did you have one?
Yeah, I did.
Wait, did I share yours? I forgot.
No, you didn't.
Oh, can you like resend it to me right now so I can share it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you have my email?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We'll wait for Emma's. And let me just lay out the plan for today. So after Emma's presentation, we'll continue to look at slides. I think we have about 10 left, maybe less. And we'll actually continue to discuss the difference between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam with regards to, we already did the sin, but with regards to repentance and the tshuva, and also we'll look at the ways of the possibility of having peaceful talks. So that's what Blake was interested in, actually. Thanks, Emma. Here we go. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I love
So
the background.
3 new pieces of information
Mhm.
was I found interesting that the number of times Jerusalem has been conquered was over 40. And Jerusalem, many people consider Jerusalem to be the holiest city in the world. And Romans ruled Jerusalem for many centuries. So this is interesting. It's very fascinating that Jerusalem has been conquered over 40 times because that's something that I've never heard before, that some places are conquered more than once. And the fact that many people believe that Jerusalem is the holiest city is not too surprising because it is a very important place to the Jewish community and like Christians and Muslims. So I did expect that many people would consider it to be the holiest city. However, I was surprised that they thought it was the holy city rather than one of the holiest cities. And lastly, I found interesting that the Romans ruled Jerusalem for many centuries because I would have expected the Jews to revolt much earlier instead of letting them rule for multiple centuries.
Oh, interesting.
And then one point of discussion, one thing I would like to discuss is more about like modern Jerusalem and their way of life. And then there's just a link there for more information about Jerusalem.
Right here?
Yeah.
Let's watch. It's just 5 minutes.
Jerusalem, a historical journey through archaeology and art. Jerusalem, a mosaic of different peoples, faiths, and nationalities. Nevertheless, despite this diversity, under the sovereignty of Israel, Jerusalem is a city that works. But has it always been this way? The first historical mention of Jerusalem is in the Bible, in the era of the patriarchs. King David declares Jerusalem as Israel's capital, known from that point on also as Zion. His son, King Solomon, builds the first temple. But the temple is destroyed by the Babylonians, and the Jews are exiled. King Cyrus's declaration enables the Jews to return and rebuild the temple. Alexander the Great's conquests include Jerusalem. However, his successors desecrate the temple, which leads to the Maccabees' revolt against the Greeks' imposition of Hellenism. The Roman Empire seizes control, and King Herod renovates the temple. A large-scale revolt against a corrupt and vicious Roman reign fails. The Second Temple is destroyed, and the Jews are banned from Jerusalem. 60 years pass, and Bar Kokhba leads another revolt for the freedom of Jerusalem. But it fails after 3 years of battle. Jews are banned from the city, renamed by the Romans Aelia Capitolina, in order to eradicate its Jewish heritage. Roman Emperor Constantine converts to Christianity and reinforces the ban on Jews entering Jerusalem. A new religion, Islam, sweeps through the Middle East. Non-Muslims are declared second-class citizens. Crusaders conquer Jerusalem in a bloodbath of Jews and Muslims. 2,000 Jews are burnt alive in the main synagogue, and the city is depopulated of its previous inhabitants. The first organized mass Jewish return arrives from France and England. The Mamluks defeat the Christian kingdom of Jerusalem, and building and renovating of synagogues and churches is banned. The great Mishnai commentator, Rabbi Ovadia of Bartanura, settles in Jerusalem. The Ottoman Empire takes over, imposing restrictions on Jews and Christians, and Sultan Suleiman rebuilds the walls. But as the empire declines, Jerusalem is badly neglected. Still, the Jewish people stream back, build new neighborhoods, and re-establish their majority by 1863. World War I breaks out. The Ottoman Empire collapses and makes room for a new Middle East. The British Foreign Secretary, Arthur James Balfour, declares the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people. Britain receives a mandate to create a Jewish homeland, but forbids Jews from blowing the shofar or reading holy scrolls at the Western Wall. Thousands of Muslims are incited to unleash an attack against Jews in Jerusalem and Hebron. 86 Jews are brutally murdered, hundreds are wounded. UN Resolution 181 declares Jerusalem as a corpus separatum, a separate entity. A Jewish state is declared as Jerusalem is put under siege, conquered, and divided. 58 synagogues are destroyed or desecrated. Harsh limitations are imposed on Jews and Christians for 19 years. The Six-Day War. Jerusalem is reunited and freedom and equality are restored. Throughout history, only Israel has protected the freedom of all peoples and faiths in Jerusalem.
That was great. Emma, thank you for that. now I'm going to get back to our slideshow. Did I miss anybody's else presentation? No, we're all good? Okay, so back to our slideshow. And thank you again for everybody's presentations. They were great. So let me get to, I think we're on slide 37. That was a really great video. So we did holy books, we did rituals, we did the sin last time. Okay, on salvation. So in Judaism, how do we find salvation? Meaning, how do we make ourselves better through good work, prayers, and grace of God? In other words, our faith in God. In Christianity, by grace through faith in Jesus Christ. So to be faithful to God and Jesus Christ. And by the way, the Trinity, again, going back to, remember we talked about the Trinity in Christianity. So three divine entity in Christianity, God, as we know, our God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost. In other words, rather Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost, which we really don't know what it is, but Christians believe that it was the Holy Ghost who came down from heaven and from whom Mary had conceived and from whom Jesus Christ was born. And supposedly dove came down when Jesus was resurrected. And in Islam, through good work, thus personal righteousness must outweigh personal sin. So in other words, if person does all the good things in life, then it will outweigh the person's sinning. Regarding the hell, now, let me ask you, do Jews believe in the existence of hell, as in hell? No, I see Kayla turning her head. There is actually a word for hell in Hebrew. It's called Sheol. And it is a representation of some dark place somewhere under or inside the earth. But we don't believe, of course, in a hell as, you will be burning in hell as a punishment after you die if you were a sinner, right? So in Judaism, the ideas of the afterlife have varied widely among different groups and in different time periods. For the most part, Judaism does not emphasize the afterlife. In Christianity, as we know, a place of everlasting punishment for the unrighteous. By the way, in the medieval times especially, oftentimes the children would be intimidated into doing the right things and to behave by scaring them that if they, when they die, they will be burned in hell. Again, not now, but in the medieval times. And for Islam, it's a place of torment and fire, which is stated in the Quran. In Islam, hell is known as Jahannam. Jahannam has several levels, and a person may not necessarily spend eternity there. So unlike Christianity, still they believe, but not like forever. Now, on purification. What does it mean, purification? To make yourself better, right? To cleanse yourself, in other words, from the misdeeds that you may have, or sins that you may have committed. So when do we acknowledge all the sins that we committed? You can unmute if you want to answer this question. When do we acknowledge it? Isabella?
Yom Kippur.
On Yom Kippur, exactly. And besides acknowledging the sin, also a way to purify yourself. I don't know if you've heard of the word mikveh or mikvah. Did anybody hear of that concept of or place, mikvah? Anyone? If you do, unmute yourself. How about Abigail? We just, I think we've mentioned mikveh just recently. Also, can I see your face? I only see your forehead. There you go. Do you know what mikveh is?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Yes, mikveh. What is a mikveh or mikvah? No one? Okay, so it's okay if you don't know, by the way, this is not a test. And I'm happy to tell you guys about it. So mikveh is a ritual bath. So there are places, some synagogues, some Orthodox synagogues, some conservative synagogues have it. Not many Reform synagogues in the country have it. They also have a separate space, almost like a spa. So not only women, but also men would go to mikveh, and it's another way to purify yourself. Women, for example, would go to mikveh before the wedding. So would men. So you enter, and the water in the mikveh has to be like a changing water. So it can't be the same water all the time. It has to come and go. What's the concept for that kind of water? I forget in English. So it can be like in the pool, the same water all the time. It has to flow constantly. So that's the rule of the mikveh. And when you dip in the water, you say a blessing on dipping in the mikveh, and also you say Shema. And you can purify yourself, but according to the Torah, for example, if you eat something non-kosher, you can purify yourself by a ritual bath. Also, women would do that after childbirth, or men would do it before Shabbat. So you purify ritually not only your body, but also your soul by dipping into the mikveh. Now, for Christianity, the purification is during Lent. They have it once a year, I think. And they have Lent once a year. I think it's before Easter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it comes sometime before Easter. And during Ramadan for Islam, right? And we talked about Ramadan already in the last couple of sessions. Modern interfaith initiatives. I'm going to minimize the screen. So Blake, that's to your question. So first of all, praying together in Jerusalem. Blake, you want to read this?
Okay. Praying together in Jerusalem, a monthly gathering in addition to prayer time. The group also discusses its various religion rituals and texts. They seek to increase respect and understanding of the traditions that tie these religions to the city and often play a role in the ongoing violent conflict here.
Very nice, thank you. And somebody else on Neve Shalom, Vahat al Salam, Oasis of Peace. Brandon, could you read this?
Yeah, let's see. Located between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the Oasis of Peace is a Jewish Arab community founded in 1970. The village is composed of about 50 families, half are Jewish, half are Arab, and the majority are secular. The Oasis of Peace serves as an example of the possibility of coexistence in Israel and has been a point of study for conflict resolution research worldwide.
Thank you. The Seeds of Peace Center for Coexistence in Jerusalem. Kayla, would you mind to read this?
So for more than 2 decades, the Seeds of Peace Youth Center for Coexistence in Jerusalem has held activities in 7 main categories: intensive dialogue, public presentation, creative expression, leadership training and empowerment, enhancing knowledge and raising awareness, experimental learning, and written expression.
Thank you. A model for coexistence. Who would like to read this? How about, who didn't go yet? How about Caitlin?
Okay. So according to the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, when you think of conflicts that have raged others over centuries, and now you look at Jerusalem under the sovereignty of the Israel government rather than place of conflict, it's actually the model for coexistence in the world.
Right, by the way, whose picture is this? Do you guys know? Do you know who this is? How about Brandon? Do you know who this guy is?
No, I don't.
Mahmoud Abbas, the ruler of the Palestinian people. I don't remember what his title, not the president, but he is now still, I mean, he's been there for a while, the leader of the Palestinians. Okay, somebody else, let me see. How about Zach?
Sure. So, wait, you want me to read this slide?
Yep, read this paragraph.
And Jerusalem, over the past 51 years, now has become a place like it's never been before. It's a place where people who want to worship at the Kotel, the Western Wall, or Al-Aqsa, a mosque, or the Church of the Holy
Sepulchre,
all can do so with freedom of worship, most of the time without fear or violence.
Right, so let's review, by the way. Western Wall, what is the Western Wall?
It was like the remaining wall from like the ancient temple.
The second temple, right, outside the temple. And somebody else, what's Al-Aqsa Mosque? What is that place? Somebody else. We saw the dome of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Isn't it sort of just like an Islamic temple? But like...
Isabella, you had it in your presentation.
What? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, you had it in your presentation, the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just found it on the internet.
So do you remember what it was?
Vaguely. I'm pretty sure it was like their main mosque that they travel to.
It's in
pray.
Jerusalem. Remember the big golden dome?
Yeah. It was a while ago when I did this project, so I don't really remember the specifics.
Right. Anybody else? Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's right like in the center of the old city, behind the walls of ancient temple, of the second temple. Somebody mentioned in the presentation, that's where supposedly Muhammad rings a bell. Muhammad rose to heaven from there and spoke to God.
He like rose over this hill and he started talking to God.
Yes, so that's a place. How is this place, and we talked about it in our earlier presentations, how is this place connected to Jews, and why do Jews constantly have the fight about this place, who has the access to it? Right now it's only Muslims, but why do Jews also want to have an access to that place? Do you remember, anyone? Very, very important to Jews as well. Something to do with Abraham and Isaac. Anyone? I'm giving you hints.
Was it where Abraham was like about to sacrifice Isaac, but then God was like, wait, no?
That's right. That was, well, supposedly, yeah. I mean, it's not historically proven, but supposedly that was the place. And Jews also had a sacred place there. But right now it is a domain of the Muslim population. So many observant Jews have a hard time with accepting that they can't go worship there. So, but it's also, you know, can be dangerous. There were times when during the year when the place is only accessible to Jews to worship. So again, this is one of the points in Jerusalem that causes a lot of tension between Jews and Arabs. And what's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? Very hard to pronounce. Anyone? The Church of Holy Sepulchre. What's the holy? What is so special about it to Christians? Yep, Isabella.
That was near the location where Jesus was crucified.
Right, the last step of the 13, and where from where he also was resurrected, supposedly, right? So all can do so. I'm sorry, who, Zach, you were reading, so continue. All can do.
All can do so with the freedom of worship, most of the time without fear or violence.
Right, so we really hope that one day we wouldn't have to argue about who will worship where, and the soldiers wouldn't have to protect the Jews from Arabs and Arabs from Jews. Sometimes that happens too, and everyone will live at peace. Okay, next one, let me see, we didn't go yet. Somebody wants to read this one? Abigail?
But Aaron David Miller, a veteran peace negotiator for several U.S. administrations, disagrees. He said, if history teaches anything about Jerusalem, it's that the city is not to be shared, but to be possessed in the name of one's God, tribe, nation.
Do we agree with that? Guys, do we agree with that?
I mean, no, that just seems very selfish on anyone's part.
Right. I mean, how can it be determined? I mean, every of the three religions, right, claim that it's Jerusalem is their holy land, and it's better to share than to continue fight about it, right? Let's see who didn't go yet. Josh, can you read? Josh, I can't see you. And Caitlin, I can't see you guys. Can you, Josh, can you read this paragraph? This page, rather?
Many international groups and
Josh, can you
countries.
turn the camera?
What?
Turn it on the camera. Can't see you.
Many international groups and countries support efforts to divide Jerusalem in Israeli and Palestinian sections, but securing a plan that everyone agrees on is difficult.
Right. So it is really unfortunate, and all the city in Jerusalem still is a place of, like I said, conflict, but also violence, and you never know when it can become dangerous. I remember when we were taking a tour in the caves under the temple, second temple. When you come out, the guards from Israeli army, several people from Israeli army would lead you out because the exit is in Arab quarters. And Abigail, do you remember? So as you exit into the Arab quarters, you have like a few very heavily armed Israeli soldiers that accompany you to get through the Arab quarters, because again, it's not always safe. Okay, I think everybody already went. Emma, can you read this page?
The embassy, oh wait, On December 6th, 2017, President Trump announced the United States recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
So let's stop there. And again, we're not going to get into, whether we like President Trump or not, but the fact that he declared and announced that and recognized that the United States State Embassy is moving to Jerusalem. What did it do to Israel? What do you think? How did Israel benefit from that? Why was it important? Anyone? Let me ask you, where was it? Where was the United States Embassy before? Anyone? What do you think? Another big city in Israel.
Tel Aviv.
Right. Prior to moving it to Jerusalem, it was in Tel Aviv. And I remember very clearly, I had to go there several times to acquire American visa, and later also to get Emily, my older one, passport when we had to leave from Israel to America. So why is it important now that the embassy was moved to Jerusalem? I know you guys can answer this question. Come on, I don't want to be telling you and talking all the time. I want you to also participate. So, okay, let's start with a question. What is the capital of Israel? Guys, okay, Isabel, thanks for saving everyone.
Now it's Jerusalem. But
Right.
it was Tel Aviv.
By what?
But before it was Tel Aviv.
No, it was always Jerusalem. So actually, but thank you for answering this question. So the capital of Israel has always been Jerusalem. At least that's how Israelis perceive it. But how did the world perceive it? So there's a sound truth into your answers about. But the rest of the world, how did the rest of the world perceive in terms of what it was the capital of Israel? Come on, guys, you can unmute yourself. Even if you answer wrong, it's still okay. Try to answer the question. Yeah?
Tel Aviv.
Right, so the rest of the world, especially Arab world, wouldn't accept that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Why do you think is that? Why wouldn't they accept that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel? Think about the animosity towards Israel lately on campuses of colleges. Are there some progressive movements?
Well, I mean, the two reasons I can think of is A, it's not like a traditional capital. B, there's a lot of like conflict over who which religion is there, and they don't want to like put that in the middle of like like they don't want that to be a capital. I don't know.
Well, so many Muslim Arabs and Arabs in general, they don't accept the fact that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel because they consider it their city. So they just don't want to accept that. And many people around the world support that opinion. So by moving the embassy of United States to Jerusalem, which, by the way, many presidents had promised before, it sort of like show the world, because United States still has a lot of influence in the world, and hopefully will remain so. It showed to the entire world that America recognizes Jerusalem officially as the capital of Israel. And so it also encouraged other countries, and other countries started moving their embassy to Jerusalem as well. So it gives Israel more power to pronounce Jerusalem and having Jerusalem as its capital. All right, Emma, can you finish reading?
The embassy opened at its Jerusalem location on May 14th, 2018, the 70th Gregorian anniversary of the creation of the modern state of Israel.
Thank you. Okay, now discussion. Given its centuries-old history of religious conflict, is it possible for true coexistence to exist for the long term in Jerusalem? So I know it's hard for us to do it because we're not in person, but I would like your opinion, guys, on this question. Do you think it's possible, the true coexistence? And really think about it. It doesn't have to be, yes or no. It's really what you think.
I believe if everyone puts their differences aside, realize that they have more in common than they don't have in common, and they, let go of a couple things, due to both sides. Like both sides have done wrong, but they just let go of them on both sides. Then that can happen. But as we know, human nature is not like that. So I don't know.
So perhaps it's not really that realistic. I mean, it took so long, right? And still there's the same conflicts that we had centuries ago. So we're not talking even decades, we're talking centuries ago, which is really a shame. But anyone can think of ways, and I bet if you will find a way, you can get a Nobel Prize, but you never know. Maybe one of you will eventually be that person who will figure out a way to have everyone coexist peacefully, not only in Jerusalem, but in Israel in general, and well, forget the world. But any other ideas? So we read some of the ideas that some of the groups in Israel create the ways of Arabs and Jews getting together, right? So can anyone think of any other creative ways for the Muslims and Jews to find ways of a common ground? Guys, pretend you're in the classroom that we're all together and we're not looking at the phones. So, and we're not playing games. We're talking to our friends on the phones. So let's really think, what are other ways of getting the Jews and the Arabs together in Jerusalem and in Israel in general?
I think forgetting about the past, not thinking, not making our decision based on the past, but just moving forward.
Well, but how do we move forward? Abigail, any specific activities that the Jews and Arabs can do together that can help to learn from one another and eventually understand that in ways we are similar?
Maybe the Jews visit the mosque and the Arabs visit the temple and the services.
That would be wonderful, but right now it's like we do in America, right? We do that. So they should learn from our model, because we invite everybody to interfaith services, right? So that would be a good idea, but then the Arab government has to agree, because sometimes the government incites the animosity, and it's a big problem. What about something to do with children? Because I think that if we start from the young age, there is a chance, because it's there's expression, it's hard to teach new tricks, old dog and new tricks, right? But what if we do something with the youth? What do you think could be done, like some activities with the youth that would help?
Well, as was mentioned earlier, how they had like community activities like in the park, or like just incorporate that into like school events or something, and like just trying to expose them to each other's cultures even more. And understanding like even though they're different, it's not a bad different, it's just different, and it can be good different, and like really just like teaching them that, and like teaching more acceptance than division.
Right. So the more activities together, the better. By the way, if you have a time and a desire, if you can put like either one or more activities that you think could be beneficial for the reaching the peace and coexistence, I would be happy to hear. I'm not going to ask you to present it, but unless you want to, but you can send it to me and Ms. Okrent, and we'll see. Maybe we can pass along those suggestions to the groups that we learned about. And of course, what are the greatest threats to religious coexistence in Jerusalem? God forbid, if there's going to be violence, more violence, and people will start just destroying each other's sanctified places, it's going to be a big problem. Would you support an international proposal that Jerusalem be the future capital of both Israel and Palestine? What do you think about that? Do you think that it is possible to divide Jerusalem to be the capital of both? But although there is no such country, as I mentioned in the previous sessions, there's no such country as Palestine. They still don't have their own independency. But let's say that there is a two-state solution. Do you think it's possible to divide Jerusalem? Would you be for or against it?
Well, not physically dividing the borders, because as we've seen in the history of stuff, that has never worked very well at all. So don't like physically divide it, but just have like an agreement to share it, like just mentally share it. But as we know, that rarely works. But I don't know. You just gotta mentally share it. Don't like physically divide it up. Don't start taking a scissor and then cutting out the city. Like, don't do that.
Anybody else? Any thoughts on whether Jerusalem can be divided?
I think that like people are too selfish to share something, and I don't think that they could overcome their differences to share it.
Right, it would be tough. It would be very tough. Anybody else? Oh, come on, guys. I know that you're all pro-Israel. Several of you travel to Israel. Brandon, what do you think? Yeah, get off the phone.
I don't really have any thoughts. I don't really know.
Oh, come on. I know you're disgusted in your family too. You don't have any thoughts whether or not you think Jerusalem can be divided? All right, why don't I send all of you these questions, and I would expect that you guys will send me the answers. And again, it's not going to be public if you don't want it to, but I would like you to think about this question. So I will send it to all of you. That's it. So we finished our Jerusalem presentation. Yay. Just in time because my computer is running out of batteries. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining today, this morning, and have a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.